Here at Firefly Tiny Homes, we treat every structure we build as if it will be hit by a hurricane over and over again, or subject to earthquake repeatedly. And not every tiny house I see built out there is up for that kind of stress. And so I thought I'd take a few minutes in this very early stage of framing to point out a few of the things that we do differently that help our homes stand up to that kind of pressure and be just fine. I'm Andy with Firefly Tiny Homes. This is another Behind the Build. The very first thing to say is that the most basic thing a builder can do is choose quality materials. I order about 3 times the amount of studs and lumber that I need just so I can pick through, like all of that's got to go back. I just reject it. It's not good enough. And we want better quality lumber, the best we can get, these days. And the other thing is that when it comes to things that you can't see in the finished product, a lot of builders will spec in the bare minimum commodity, especially sheet goods like subfloor. There's 7 pieces of subfloor in this house. Advantech costs twice as much as commodity OSB, but it's 7 pieces. It's not that big of an investment, and Advantech is just better. It is flatter, it's a stronger floor, it holds up to moisture events much better over the longevity of this home. And we think it's just a small price to pay. It's one of the things that you won't see in the finished pictures, but we insist upon here at Firefly Tiny. The other thing, we'll cover this in the next one when it comes to sheathing, but we go ahead and glue and then ring shank nail all of our sheet goods to create an extremely rigid structure all the way around. I do have some footage here of how we do it with the Advantech subfloor, rolling out, spreading out polyurethane, construction adhesive, putting the subfloor down. The same thing will happen for the wall sheathing and the roof sheathing. The kind of thing that you don't do in normal home construction, but in a tiny house, it's worth that extra effort to create an incredibly strong, rigid, durable structure that's going to be, driving down the road. A few other things, and another advantage that I can cover here of doing the wood floor structure that is then bolted, every joist bolted to the I-beam, is that when we bring the sheathing, the OSB sheathing, which you'll see in the next video, we can bring it down and it gets glued and ring shanked to the floor structure. When you have a steel structure as your floor, you're depending entirely on the bolts through the floor plate into the trailer, and that's fine. It's okay. It works. We've done it, and I don't feel bad about it. But the nice thing about it is like this huge surface of 2x6 here. We glue all of our sheathing panels to that. It just creates an incredibly strong. Now we also will use Simpson strong tie screws, and it's sort of a belt and suspenders. We will put these structural Simpson rafter screws through every full stud into the floor structure here and up there. So we do many different ways of ensuring that our homes can hold up to the challenge of being moved potentially repeatedly. I know a lot of people don't move them over and over again, but you should be able to if you want to. Now, this sort of, if you imagine this, it gets repeated on our rafters, which a lot of tiny homes is just not true of a lot of tiny homes. We treat our rafters in the same sort of way. So we go through the trouble of putting a band joist or a band rafter that goes continuously all along. Now, that means that we can carry the sheathing up and glue it and nail it to this band rafter so that, and then those sheathing is carried all the way down on the wall and the studs and, gets nailed repeatedly. It just creates an incredibly strong, very rigid, holds up to shear pressure in a really, really good way. And of course, we also do little details like I run my double top plate on this high side through the table saw to take, I don't know if you can kind of see that, so that I take just a little bit of an angle, a bevel off that, so that the rafters seat just really nice and rest on that double top plate, so they're not, only resting on the nails or the screws. They're bearing very solidly and rigidly all the way down. Another small thing we do is try to think of the little details that will make our homes more comfortable or just easier to live with. So for instance, we're putting a slider door out onto this porch, which isn't framed wet. These are just here because Gina just stained them and they're drying. But we go ahead and it's just a little thing, but we put a 2x6 wall on the back of this model so that when we put the slider in here, which is deeper than say just like a normal window or something, so that we have enough jamb. So we do a nice trim out, a nice wood jamb next to the slider, so that there's enough room inside the jamb to pull down nice privacy shades. Because the bedroom area is back here. Now it's kind of a nice, view out that slider door onto this little porch, but hey, you might want some privacy, right? So instead of having to have the curtains in the way of the bed or just in the traffic, because there's limited room in tiny houses. Just one little thing that we do on this particular model. Other things like we're always thinking about blocking for cabinetry or other things. Or for instance, in this case, this 2x4 here is only here in this structure, which you won't see in the end, but it's there to give like a good structure for a shower door if people choose to put a shower door. So it's back there, it's behind the wall, so that you have good meat to put that, good structural meat to put that shower door in if you want. So we're wrapping up this initial framing stage. We'll run some water lines. We run those in our outside wall. We haven't had a problem. We keep them to the inside of the wall, put insulation behind them. We put protection plates, over that. And we've had good luck doing that. We have tiny homes in Vermont. We have tiny homes in Aspen, Colorado, and no one's had any trouble with their water lines freezing. So we'll run a few initial water lines in the walls here, and then it's time for sheathing.